almost.
Recording. All right, so here we go again. Surprises give us a surge of dopamine, right? You're very creative people. You're very confident. So don't you worry. Let's just have fun today. Today, I have a surprise for all of you. This forum is entitled Spur of the Moment, which means that, as the term implies, you're going to answer simple questions at the spur of the moment. You're not allowed to think. Okay, so the mechanic of this forum is simple. The first 7 minutes is for each one of you to reintroduce yourself or introduce yourself, because we've got a newcomer. Dennis is here. And then after that, about next 20 minutes will be a spur of the moment questions from me to all of you. And the second part of the spur of the moment is the Q&A among you. Okay, so thank you for joining me again. It's always a pleasure to be with intelligent, bright, wise, and a little bit weird people. Okay, so let's get the ball rolling. Who would like to start to introduce himself? Oh, yeah.
I'll do it quickly.
Okay.
So I'm John Tuck. I'm a holistic energy scientist, and I have much experience of the positive changes that we can make in our lives from a basic understanding of quantum physics and human psychology. I'm the author of A Theory of Everything, Things I Wish I'd Known at Your Age, and I'm president of TBC-InTV.
Well said. Okay. Thank you, John.
Jonathan, just one comment on what you said. I've had the pleasure of meeting you, not long ago, and I've actually read your book, and it scares me that I actually understand your book, because there are a lot of theories of everything in there. But you've done it in such a, but no, you brought it across in such a easy to understand manner. I mean, classic storytelling. It's great stuff. And I just wish more people knew about it, because there's a lot to learn.
That's a huge accolade coming from someone like yourself, Dennis. So
well, thanks, John.
I'm extremely grateful.
Dennis, you even suggested that John should change the title of the book to Life's Manual, a manual for life.
Well, no, what I said was it's like a user manual for life, but somebody that's already lived it, that you can look back and say, it's like when you're your current age, you say, boy, I wish I knew that back when I was X. Well, Jonathan has told us what he knew back then, what he's learned since then. And it kind of gives you like a stacked deck. If you're sitting in Las Vegas, you already know what the cards are going to say if you take it in the right context. So that's what I meant by that. It's a bit of a life's user manual.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, thank you, Dennis. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You're one of those who wrote a foreword to John's book, and so was the best friend of Daniel, Celine. Okay, you should also invite those who wrote the foreword of your books to our forum. Taro, Daniel, Dennis. All right, Dennis is a group of really good writers. Farouk Kumar, another, I'm following some of your writers in your forum. I mean, in your 360 magazine. I'm following about 5 of them. And of course, I follow yours every day. I read all your posts every day. He's on LinkedIn and he's on Facebook too. Okay, who's next? How about Dennis?
Oh, well, Taro started, so I'll let him go and then I'll come back around.
All right, Taro.
All right. Hi. Good morning, everybody, and great to be here with you guys, Jonathan, Dennis, and Daniel. Hello, Angela. Yes, my name is Tero Molis. I'm originally from Finland, but I lived over 25 years in Latin America, currently in Mexico. An avid Lego builder. Here's my London Bridge. I just did it the other day out of no instructions, just imagination. And I'm also an author. I wrote a book, another life manual called Life is a Sandcastle. Dennis, you are going to get a copy of this. And what I do otherwise, I'm mostly a business advisor. So I like to help startups get off the ground and, guide them with my own learnings and mistakes through the many decades that I've been entrepreneuring, and try to avoid the same pitfalls that I did. So that's sort of my day-to-day. And I believe strongly that, life is something that you build yourself, you create, and you're responsible for it. So there should be no one else to blame, or no one else should point fingers, or if there are, make sure that, you deal with it and you sort of grab the responsibility for yourself. And then you can really take charge and notice that, the only common denominator in all your failed relationships is you. And then you become aware that, it's up to you to be happy. So that is my mission, to share this message with the world.
Yeah, it reminds me of what you said, just reminded me of Neville Goddard. I think what he said was, your reality is just you pushed out. Okay, who's next?
Okay, go ahead, Daniel.
Okay, I'm hi everyone. Hi Dennis, nice to meet you, and see you again, Tero and John. John, I just question, how is your book selling?
John is
John.
in shock.
John,
I lost connection. Then I've got poor internet connection. Sorry.
He
How's
doesn't
your
want to
book
answer that
selling?
question. Yes, obviously he doesn't want to answer that question.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I beg your pardon, I didn't hear.
Okay, the question was, I was wondering how your book is selling at this point.
It's been a very slow process, but it's always a process of farming rather than hunting. And Angela has been helping me tremendously to build the momentum behind it. I think one of the things that I'm doing at the moment that I'm really enjoying is giving workshops and talks on the book. And I've had some tremendous feedback and some tremendously positive results. So it's a slow process, but I'm really enjoying it. And I'm enjoying working with Angela to begin to address the market.
Okay, good. I'd like to see your book get a lot more popular.
Thank you.
do you have a 3 essence to boost
Well,
sales on anything?
Well, we have, there's a tree essence that was called manifestation that was for helping, it was very good for that kind of inspiration. So yes, the tree essences definitely can help, but yeah, it's a bit of a mystery, the process for books. The books will take off in their own time, I think, is what I see with it. But I'm also an author.
I agree with you, Daniel. I think that it will happen when the time is right.
Right.
But if we don't take the action in order to get towards that, then nothing will happen at all. So
sure, absolutely, you're absolutely right. It's you have to take the action. I keep getting for you to help your book. Somehow it's in the lineage of Alan Watts, and you know his book called The Book.
no, I'm not aware of that.
All right, do you know Alan Watts at all?
The name
Alan
rings a
Watts.
bell.
Yeah, so look at The Book, and maybe people that reviewed that or interested in Alan Watt might be interested in your book.
It's called The Book.
It's called The Book. Yeah, it's a very famous. It's kind of a manual for living. It's what what he would give to young people if he was going to give them, the inner knowing.
Yeah.
It was written many years ago.
So is this something you've come across, Dennis?
Not at all, no.
Wow, because Dennis said that my book was the first book he'd come across in all his experience in the last 20 years that even came close to something like this. So that's a very good, good resource. Thank you. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, so
Okay, and maybe Taro, you can also contribute to, Dennis magazine. It's got a
I'd be
lot-
honored, absolutely.
Well, let me talk about that. Thank you for that, Mary. And Tara, you and I are now connected, I know, on LinkedIn. And Daniel, I did reach out to you if you'd like to connect on LinkedIn, just to kind of give you a little more background. But
okay, sure.
as far as what we do a lot of different things. So I'm going to give you a high level, then I'm going to put a link into the chat stream here, which will help because I could go on for 2 hours. But let's just say we started out publishing about 11 years ago with an entirely different model. And what I mean by that is we looked at all the publishing magazines or online things out there like Forbes, which was the business side of them, Huffington Post. And we decided we were going to break all the rules because we talked to a lot of writers 11 years ago and said, you know, I know you write for Forbes, I know you write for these people, tell us where it hurts. And boy, did we get an avalanche of things like, well, it takes forever to get published. Well, they edit my stuff so much that it doesn't resemble what I sent in. They're telling me I have to write an article every 2 weeks. It's got to be this many words. And they just go down this long list. So we took every one of those items and we created something called Biz Catalyst 360. Now, that was the first version of our site. And the idea was to be able to say to any writer like John, like you, Tara, or like you, Daniel, or any writer that already knows how to write, look, if you come on board with us, you can write about whatever you want, whenever you want, however many words you want, as often as you want. It just goes on. We took away all the hurdles. And the only key criteria we have is as long as it's not date sensitive, we don't do breaking news, as long as it's not promotional, and as long as it's respectful and not mean-spirited, we'll publish it. So we publish everything from life, culture, business, poetry, podcasts, you name it. I mean, it's around the spectrum. We thought that formula might work. And the other thing that distinguished us from virtually everybody else, and I'm very blessed to be able to say this, we've never done anything for money. Everything we've done is for good. So there's no advertising on our site. There's no pop-ups. There's no catches. We're not trying to sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. When you write for us, that's what you do. And our journey is to make sure the writers get all the visibility they can. Again, we invented that model. We didn't know what was going to happen. It's now 11 years later. We've published just about 29,000 articles. We're 6 short of 1,000 writers now. We've won 2 awards. We've expanded into not just doing publishing of articles, but now we have 360 Nation Studios. We do a lot of video production now. We have a nonprofit foundation called Good Works. And everything is tucked under our ethos, which is our job is to rediscover humanity. And we're doing a lot of that through the written word. And the most popular thing we're publishing today is storytelling. I don't care if it's a business story. I don't care if it's a personal story. It's just amazing how many people gravitated in that direction now because they've got a voice and they want it to be heard. What they are typically lacking is someone that's willing to give them an opportunity to make it be heard. And that's us. So whether you're a junior writer just starting out or whether you've written 10 books, you've got a home with us.
Great. Thank you. And you still have other activities more, right? Okay. Yeah. So yeah, he just dropped his URL. That's the URL of his website, right?
Yep.
Dennis. Okay. Thank you for that. Now, Daniel, I think you hadn't introduced yourself yet.
Oh, well, I thought I already did my question. I'm someone who likes to question and to support other people as well as my own writing. Wherever there's light, I like to help that to emerge. I must say, Dennis, I saw good vibes on it, and I have as an Essence producer with our company, we had a line of sprays called Good Vibe, good vibes sprays. So they were like a mixture of essential oils and vibrational essences to spray around and for good vibes. So
Well, our
Anyway.
good vibes are slightly different, but that's all right. Ours are all about music.
oh, okay, cool. Anyway, so I'm author of a number of books, a couple on three on related to trees. One's and a book. The last book was called The Little Book of Rattling. It's about rattling as a meditation, as a healing, as a way of clearing the consciousness, as a way of finding inner answers. So using rattling as a method of which is quite ancient, an ancient method, but never been written about. So I think it's about the only book out there on that subject.
Interesting.
And also the book before that was American Mystic. It was about an American spiritual philosopher named A. Ramana, who is quite brilliant in the lineage of Ramana Maharshi. His work focused on self-inquiry into the question, who are you in the deepest sense? And so it's his life story. So those are a couple of the books I worked on.
Very interesting. I'd like to join your rattling meditations.
Yeah, if you read the book, and I also have a couple of recordings of some rattling I did for people, which is somehow maybe I could put a links up to your site for those, or I don't know how to, if I would like to offer those to people to, is it possible to send the actual files with the meditations that you could add to your site? Can I send them to you, Angela?
Yeah, sure. Can we set another interview for that? I just had an in-depth interview with Daniel Tigner about his essences. I'm fascinated about the essences. I started to embrace all the small trees here. And started to feel their vibration.
Nice, good. That's great. Yeah. So meditating with trees is also a wonderful avenue for healing and for raising our own vibration.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're done with the introductions. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for the introductions. Now, let's go to spur of the moment, okay? So the first question goes to Daniel. Where do you get your ideas? Spur of the moment.
They come out of the ether. They just come. I just basically listen.
How many hours do you meditate?
24, I like to say. And meditation is more an attitude. It's about being an attitude of being present in the moment.
And then you hear creative juices from the ether?
Well, yeah, I always, if you're just receptive and listening, and available, then creative energy flows through you and you respond to it. You can choose to even do some work with it if you like. Like the little book of rattling just seemed to write itself. There was really no effort in it. Well, I had to sit at the typewriter and do things like that.
Typewriter.
Or the typewriter, I mean a word processor, sorry.
I'm fascinated.
I used to have, when I first started writing, I used to have a little mechanical typewriter, and I carried it, or I brought it with me when I traveled. It was a little thing, and I used to type on that. That was a while. That was in the 1970s. So.
You look so young for you.
So there you go.
Thank you. This one is for John. What is your writing process like?
Yes, it's quite a good question. I mean, I think one of the major challenges for authors, or even budding authors, is where do you begin? You know, so it's very easy to procrastinate beginning when you are searching for somewhere to start. So what I've always done, I've been writing all of my life. I've been writing journals since I was probably about 14. So what I find is the best way to do it is really just to get everything down on paper. So just almost like verbal diarrhea onto the paper, because I find that once you write that first word, it just all comes out, it all flows out, and then structuring it subsequently, particularly with the easy way it is, and much easier than it would have been for you, Daniel, when you're on your typewriter. With word processing, it's so easy to then just rejig things around and make them flow.
Yeah, that's actually it. You know, when you're connected to the source, when you're connected to the source of creativity, because you become co-creator, you cannot simply stop. You stop when I think, you know, the creator would like you to stop and rest. And then it goes back and, you know, it gives you all the creativity that you need in order for you to finish the tasks that, you know, the universe would like you to do. I'd experienced that. I'd also written a book, but mine was kind of different because I just used all my social media posts for the past 10 years of my career, and just put them all together and added a little bit of research. And that's the From Passion to Profit, my love affair with Pentium 4. Because I started my, I call it love affair because when I started, you know, my online business, the pieces were kind of big, you know, they're like hunchback, I don't know how you call it. And we cannot really get out of our PC because there were no iPads yet at that time, no cell. I mean, well, cell phone was just a phone. I was just like miniaturized landline phone. So at that time, it was really much of a sacrifice. I sacrificed my social life because I couldn't leave my PC. So I really had my basically love affair with my PC, because I would just sit in front of my PC for almost 24 hours, sleep by my PC, wake up with my PC on, and that's just how it is. I'm not promoting my this book because I'm going to rewrite it. I mean, yeah, part 2 of that will be entitled Utopia Generation. Okay, so next is for Tero. What's the first book that made you cry?
Probably The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because it had the one thing that blew my mind and has kept me creative ever since, because it has a character that is described only as a super intelligent shade of blue. And I realized that by that, I couldn't imagine that. I was not able to understand or visualize it in my head when I was 14 and I read it. And I was so flabbergasted about the fact that how can somebody describe something that I cannot imagine? And to me, that created, like, open up the portals of really creating stuff that, it doesn't have to exist. It doesn't have to be real, or you just have to be able to sort of write it down. And for me, that was mind bending. It was amazing. And I mean, that really, I mean, it didn't make me cry at that moment, but it made me cry posterior when I realized the difficulty of writing that. It wasn't as easy as I thought. And it really made me, crying about desperate tears of happiness that, wow, this is possible. And it sort of launched me into this creative mindset that I managed to keep a very childlike mindset for all my life. So that
yeah,
was
I find it fascinating because of that childlike outlook in life, especially, after reading your book. life is a sand castle. There are some twists of your book that are interesting. There are some twists that would make us rethink how we view life. So I highly recommend Tara's book. Please, grab his book if you hadn't read Life is a Sandcastle.
I did bring it up, but it's actually upstairs next to my bed being read at the moment. So
John brought your book. He brought your book. Okay, next. This one is for Dennis. What is the most unethical practice in the publishing industry?
Oh, wow. Do we have 2 hours?
Yeah, where to start, right?
Let me tell you why that's a good question. We've been at it for so long, and we have a fairly well established brand when it comes to integrity. So over the years, we started getting questions from a lot of our writers who were heading down that path of going towards their first book. And they would come to us and say, do you know any good publishers? Now you got to define the word good. Good might not be the best priced. It might be just the one that actually delivers on their promises, or it might be the one that takes your money and runs and you never see them again, or they want all the money up front. We kept hearing all these war stories. And again, we're not book publishers, but I think we know the difference between right and wrong. So this kind of ties to your question you asked earlier. Where do you get your ideas from? Well, that's where we got our idea. Earlier this year, we launched a new channel on our website. Remember, everything we do is for our writers. So we said, we can keep getting these questions about who do you trust, so to speak. And we know a lot of people, but we said, why don't we take and create a web page on our site? And we're going to list everybody we trust in the publishing business within reason, like the top 10 publishers that we know may not be the best price, but we know they're going to deliver. So if you can trust them, don't think we're just recommending cheap. We're not recommending cheap. We're recommending integrity. And then we started getting people that do illustrations. Then we started getting editors. So we now have this list of resources that we can answer that question with. And that's a broad answer to your question, but it's because of all those, primarily the war stories you hear. They took my money and they ran and went, as many people know, and maybe people on this call, when you're going for that first book, you just want to get it out there. You're excited. And I don't mean to say you're naive, but you might just fall prey to somebody that's promising you the world, even though they can't deliver it. And rather than suffer that wisdom, you can get the wisdom of experience that we have in dealing with good people.
Oh, thank you for that insight. We will remember.
Can I ask a question of Dennis?
Okay, sure.
Do you, if I wanted to say review someone's book, like Taro or John's book, as a reviewer, do you is that the kind of thing that you is fine to do on your in your journals or magazines? Or
We don't publish book reviews, but I do read books and offer my testimonial, for lack of a better term, providing I've read it. And my testimonial is, number one, I have to have really read it, which is my own standard, and it'll be an honest. And I've done that. We do reviews on Amazon for people that write for us and write books. Again, as long as we read it, we're happy to do that. We don't actually publish book reviews, though.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, this one is for Ronnie, but he's not here, so this one is for all of you, but spur of the moment and keep your answers brief, please. Okay, does creative pursuit exhaust you or energize you? Let's start with John.
Can you say that again? I didn't hear.
Does creative pursuit exhaust you or energize you?
Absolutely energizes me. I mean, in fact, it's what I live for. I think what exhausts me is doing repetitive stuff with no particular value to me in my life in the bigger picture. So what excites me, what gets me out of bed in the morning is innovation, is learning, is creating solutions to challenges that I can see. And that goes across the board. And a lot of what I work on is based on my research and the wisdom that I've gained from a first principle approach. So the inspiration must be there. You know, absolutely, I live for it.
Nice answer, Terrell.
I think it's more a state of mind than something that comes and go. Of course, when you are, you enter the flow and you're in the creative mood, you do get energized. But I believe, it's like with ideas. I mean, if you run out of ideas, then you run out of creativity, not out of ideas. So like the library is full of original ideas, so they're pretty much worthless per se, but it's only the action you take after having an idea. So you need to be energized to do something. If you're, feeling bad or sick or something, you just want to lay in bed and maybe not do anything else than sleep. But both sides, I think it's the yin and yang, I think with creativity comes tiredness, and tiredness promotes creativity. So it's like a balance I have found in my life that just, being true to myself fosters creativity and allows me to, come up with new stuff and do something with it. Just being, having that state of mind. That's my look on it.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a very unique answer. Okay, and Daniel.
Yes.
Yeah, same question.
Oh, same question. Creativity does nurture you for sure. The creative flow is there's a it really is nurturing. That's what I find to when we're in the creative flow. It's yeah, there's a part of us that is nurtured, and it's like food for the soul.
Yeah, you're right. Creativity is prayer. I mean, it's meditation itself. I think so, because while you're creating, you are communing with the source of creativity, who brought us here to co-create with him. So I think you're right. Creating something is nurturing. I agree with you. Let's hear from Dennis.
Oh, it's a tough one because our creativity is a little different. It's not on the writing side, but let me just give you an example. Because of the way we're structured, we have no boundaries, no natural boundaries where somebody said, well, you can't do that because you're the board of directors, or the marketing team says, you can't do that because you're going to upset the advertisers. Well, we don't have advertisers. Now, with that comes a responsibility, but it also comes a whole lot of creativity. And we do all of our website work inside, so there's no boundaries to what we can do as long as it makes sense. And I'll give you an example. Our creativity comes from when we come up against status quo and we say, wow, that's interesting. Maybe we can turn that on its head, like we did with publishing. Well, we did that again earlier this year. As an example, I was talking to a lady, one of our writers, really good writer, and she's got a PhD in psychology, very well spoken. She does a lot of keynote speaking around the world on various topics. Well, she wanted to do a TED Talk. So she spent about a year literally going through the process, and she was explaining to me what they do. And, we're all familiar with TED. They've been around about 25 years. They've gotten more commercial over the years than they used to be. Anyhow, so I said, her name's Melissa. I said, Melissa, tell me the pain that you went through, because I'm feeling like an idea here. So I said, and she sent me the ground rules for TED Talks. Well, it's 13 pages long. And she said, I went through the process. It took time, it took effort, it took money, it took travel. And in the end, I was limited to 18 minutes to get my point across. And she said, it became clear to me that in the end, the process was more important than the message. And it should be the other way around. So I said, send me the stuff. 2 weeks later, we launched our version of TED Talks. It's called Real Voices 360. And what does it do? If Taro or Daniel or John or you have a message that you would probably consider doing kind of on a stage with TED, well, you don't have to go there anymore. We've got 5 ground rules, and they're pretty fundamental things. There's no pages. You can sit there right on your Zoom screen in your own comfort of your room. You might be wearing your pajamas, but we don't know that. And just tell your story. Tell your TED talk there
Wow.
on the screen. Send it to us. We'll publish it. We'll syndicate it. We'll promote it. We'll give you access that you might otherwise either not have time to get, or you just can't get. There's people, we got a TED talk in, I'm sorry, we got our Real Voices in from a lady in India. She had no access to TED. She just couldn't, but she had a story, a really good heart-based story to tell. So we're giving more people more access, but that came from the creative juices of being challenged to break something else and make it better.
Wow. That's another breakthrough from you.
Well, it's the freedom. And now the challenge with that is because we can do it, you know, you can imagine I'm up at 3 a.m. saying, boy, I wonder if I can do that. Because we do our own website, we can bring a page up, you know, in a couple of hours. So that's why we launched it so quickly. And it's again, we hold that as a privilege. We want to be careful with it, but we're constantly looking at things that we can break the model or break the status quo and make it more accessible to more people.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We will keep that in mind, and we will be spreading. Yeah, we will be spreading that news to everyone. We just revolve around this kind of industry. Public speaking, social media, book writing. So this is the kind of crowd we sort of mingle with. So we will put that word out. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dennis. Well, here's another question for you though. What is your writing kryptonite? For Dennis, what is your writing kryptonite?
Well, it'd be the same one that I was talking about earlier. Any kind of boundaries that would restrict me from just picking up or getting onto the typewriter or onto the laptop or picking up the pen and writing, which means now I know I've got to write it and it's got to be in 2 weeks and it can't be more than 700 words. And those are the kind of kryptonite things that, in my opinion, and I'm not a writer by background, but I would think that would completely drain you of the normal creative juices that you want to be able to just write when you're ready about what you want to write, as many words as it takes to get your point across, and then not be subjected to somebody editing it so much that it doesn't
You're
look
right.
like
I remember telling the woman who edited my book. She's actually an award-winning author from the US. And the first thing that I told her was, I know that you're a prolific author and you're very famous, but I don't want to sound like you. I just want to sound like me. So yes, and I don't want to sound like a Forbes writer because I'm not. I'm a newbie writer and I just want to sound like a newbie. And I just want to, I don't want to have this scholarly, writing because, I'm just writing based on my experience and I just want to share my experience for new entrepreneurs to learn from my mistakes. And that's it. That's the essence of it. And second, I said, I just want people to realize that writing is easy. And they really don't need to be professional writers to be able to write a book, for as long as they have a story and for as long as they'd like to help humanity. And that's it. And yeah, well, I'm so thankful because she's really, she's a very professional writer and editor. And I really don't have any qualms about her, what she did with my book. So, okay. Yeah. Oh, it reminds me, I should invite her to join our team. She also is well connected, in this industry. I should invite her. Okay, thank you, Dennis. Now this one is for everyone. We actually experience, especially for us. And I hope that we had grown and matured in terms of, helping ourselves out of this predicament or this kind of what do you call that? This kind of personality, egoistic personality. I think this is, we go through this, especially for us who had some I should say, experience success in life, especially when we experience success at a very young age and we receive a lot of praises and, and admiration from a lot of people. And if we are not on guard, then we develop some sort of negative personality. And so this question is about ego. So does a big ego hurt or help you as a person or as a writer or as a career person? Let's start with Daniel.
Oh, the question of the ego. What is the ego? What does that actually mean? Angela, what do you mean by ego?
I think this means like egoism. Does egoism hurt or help you?
No, I think egoism is always an obstacle. It's there's a difference between knowing self and self-respect and egoism. So being present and truthful is present and present to yourself, aware of this being, this consciousness that you are, is essential, and to stand in your light and to stand in your truth. But that's not egoism. Egoism is conditioning. It's a blocking out of other of potential new influences. Mm-hmm. So I think egoism can be is one of the great problems, really, of humanity, is egoism. We need to stand in our light and be ourselves, but dissolve that is egoism. Now, if you understand ego and how it develops, when we're a little child, we need to learn to survive in the world. So when we want to survive in the world, we have to know, okay, this is not us, and that's and a child needs attention. So there might be. So if a child is not totally embraced and loved, then that can create a kind of an egoism as a way of trying to navigate in the world. But an ego is fine as you're little, but as you grow, we should be growing out of egoism into a more openness, just a presence. It's not, and what I hear from Dennis, Tara, and John is that their work is beyond ego. They're striving to bring light, to bring truth, to open things where they're not true, where they're stuck in egoism. What I hear from the publishing is that a lot of things are based in egoism and self and manipulation and self-interest, as opposed to just sharing the truth, sharing the light. And so finding ways to open that is helping to dissolve egoism. So I think that's right. So
yeah, profound. That's profound. Thank you. Okay. Well, these were all. Let's hear from Dennis.
Can you repeat the question?
Does egoism hurt or help you or anyone?
My natural reaction is it hurts. I guess we've seen too many examples of that. The examples we see on a regular basis, particularly over the last couple of years, and maybe other people have felt that, but with the pandemic coming across the world and I'll call it loss of control that many of us had. In other words, we're being told we had to stay home. We're being told we can't travel. that seems to have bubbled up a lot of egos of the kind that you really don't want to see. And what I mean by that is people that are ultra sensitive to things they wouldn't have been before the control was taken away. And I'm talking about maybe a discussion like this, where you'd be hesitant to bring up a certain topic that you might otherwise have brought up before, but people are simmering. And we see that in some of our online Zoom meetings. We have actually created a forum. It's a 2-hour Zoom meeting every 2 months, and it's entirely dedicated to get rid of that kind of stuff. And what I mean by that is we're dedicating 2 hours every 2 months with a lot of good people coming on board to teach people, for lack of a better word, agreeing to disagree without going after each other's throats and leaving the ego at the door. And rather than, if John said something or Taro or Daniel said something that I disagree with, teaching us to not challenge them, but say, Taro, help me understand how you got there. And then my job is to shut up and listen, where some people might say, Taro, you're nuts. And they go after you because they've got such a rock solid position and they don't want to hear Taro's reasoning. Well, we've seen so much of that. We created a forum. It's dedicated to stop people acting like children in the schoolyard, and start growing up a little bit, seeking to understand. Now, if I come to Taro and say, Taro, help me understand how you got there, and then I shut up and he gives me his position, it doesn't mean that we're going to sing Kumbaya. It doesn't mean that I'm going to totally agree with him. But when that call's over, Tara and I are going to be just a little bit closer because we've learned how to communicate a little better. And I may have picked up a few jewels of wisdom because I never looked at it that way. And guess what? It's because I never took the time to listen about the other opinion. Now, I can go on a long rampage about this, but that is ego, being replaced by understanding. And, we talk, our whole mission is to rediscover humanity. Boy, isn't that humanity, particularly these days.
Great, thank you. So you have that kind of forum too?
Well, we have a separate one. It's called Salon 360. We have a weekly forum. It's called the Friendship Bench, and that's for people to get together like this and just have a safe place to talk for an hour, and we will bring topics into it, almost like you're doing right now, Mary, but it's a little different. That's every week. We've been doing that for 2.5 years. It got to the point that we were realizing with this ego thing outside the room, we needed more time to teach people how to do it right. I don't mean, when I say teach people, I mean myself too, because I wasn't an expert in this. So we decided we would keep our weekly call in place, but we would launch a second one that would be every 2 months for 2 hours. Plenty of time to talk so you don't feel rushed, and plenty of time to learn. And what I do is I keep at home, I don't have it here in my office, I have a list of 8 things right now that I've learned from that session. And I use them all the time now in both personal and professional relationships. And it just changes the nature of those relationships by, if nothing else, just learning how to listen.
Oh, okay. Is this in connection to your unconference in March?
Connection to what? I'm sorry, I missed the question.
It's like unconference, is it in March?
Oh, no, that's something totally different. Totally different. But thanks for asking that.
Yeah, you've got a lot of activities coming up. Okay,
well,
next, John.
So what was the question again?
Does egotism hurt or help?
Oh, I completely concur with particularly what Daniel has said, and I think that what Dennis has just said is extremely wise and an extremely valuable product or engagement that you're in. I think that's, for me, ego in that respect is utterly negative, with a negative vibration. It doesn't help you in your personal development whatsoever. So one of the things I've done is particularly look at how to remove the memories buried deep in your subconscious, which cause you to have that egoism. So particularly in relation to something Daniel said, I think explaining the history of why somebody develops an ego is purely from memories that are deeply stored in your subconscious. So once you can get into a meditative state and begin to work with those memories and remove those memories and replace them with something more positive, is just another way of dealing with the ego. But you know, I think really loving what you were saying, Dennis, about how you're addressing it and doing it in an environment where everybody is holding everybody else accountable is a brilliant way of approaching that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. And now let's listen. Listen to Taro.
Yes, thank you. I think my estimated colleagues here, I mean, said the most important things. You know, defining it is hard, and you know, the listening and stuff. And I totally agree with you. I have found through my own life that the topic is quite paradoxical, meaning that I feel that as a child, being somewhat egoistical can be very beneficial because we are so influenced by our parents and society, and we want to be like the others, and we want to be part of the team, and we learn a lot through that. But I think a healthy dose of egoistical thinking in that stage is very good for you because it helps you focus and stay true to yourself. It's really hard as a kid, but if you manage, then in adulthood, you have to then, you know, just focus on getting to know yourself better. And the better you know yourself, the less egoistical you become. And to me, it's like, I mean, the great example is any social network, you know, people who post about their happy family and exciting life have really, you know, they have a need for their ego to boost, because the ones that really are happy, they have no reason to share that with anybody because they're already fine with it. You know, I think that's very practical examples of that. But I believe that knowing yourself as an adult, you realize that, you know, yes, I don't know anything. I have to listen, as, you know, Dennis well said, you know, just be humble, you know, understand that you might know everything or think you do, but you realize through that you don't know anything, and you're willing to learn and listen, and thus bring your ego down and just be more humble in that sense. But I believe that is the path.
Yes, I believe so too. Yeah, I believe, totally agree with what you said. Well, we will not be able to do the part 2 anymore because we already did it. We already did it, though we still have about 10 more questions here, but we cannot do that. Let's reserve this for next month. Okay, for next month, we are targeting 5 more people to be joining us, and most of them are people like us, like-minded people like us. So I'll be emailing you for the, suggest time, and I think this is a good time for us, but date again. Okay, we would be very happy to have you back again next month with us. So we have 8 minutes more to go. I would like to give the floor back to all of you. Just say some parting words to our viewers. Let's start with Daniel, and then Taro, and then Dennis, and then John.
Yeah, I'd just like to say something about our last conversation about ego, and and also in reference to what Dennis was talking about. I think there are stages of when you meet with people and you talk. There's first is the ego, and then there's ability to say debate ideas, and then the next level would be discussion, just to be able to discuss. And then the highest level is dialogue, and dialogue means that you're searching for more insight, more answers together. So when you present what you know, that's accepted as part of that dialogue. But it's in friendliness. It's with an appreciation of each person's contribution and insights. So I'm glad to see that, for example, in Dennis's organization, putting that into actual practice. But it's something for all of us to every day, really. is dialogue.
Yeah. Dialogue. Okay.
To carry on those
It's very refreshing. Yeah.
It is, yeah. To carry on with Daniel's wise words, I would like to say that, you know, the saying goes that every human being has something valuable to share with you, and you can learn from somebody something. And I don't say that is true. But what we must realize in life, that people release those gold nuggets in different rhythms and times. So somebody might teach you the secret of life in 5 minutes, and somebody might take 20 years to do that. So what we need to learn in life is to know yourself, and then be able to identify those people who are willing to give those gold nuggets very quickly. And then you can go through as many people as you can in life, because it's limited. You can't visit 7.8 billion people, but, you know, as many as you can. So to me, the secret is, you know, understanding your own rhythm and tune. And we've been talking about, you know, tunes and music. And I feel like it's the same thing. So trust yourself to connect to those people who give you that nugget quickly, or those nuggets. But if they don't waste your time, you know, go with somebody else while you wait for the other. So don't wait 20 years for that one person to release it and then move along. You'll be very efficient in that. So it's, you know, it's still true, the saying, but you have to be more decisive and more choosy on that. That is my conclusion.
You're right. You're right. I totally agree with you. Next, Dennis.
Wow, I just think I think there needs to be more discussions like this out there, frankly, where you can just, you know, speak from the heart. And thank you for orchestrating that. I think that based on my experience, more people need to have the courage to be vulnerable, which means it's okay for me to say, look, I don't have it all figured out. I'm okay listening to what Tara and Daniel said, and maybe I'll take away some jewels of wisdom from this and be more creative on something else. But it's getting past the ego we talked about earlier. The word humility comes up. And to some people, you know, it's the He-Man. We're not supposed to be weak. We're supposed to know it all. It's having the courage to say, I don't know, and to seek that understanding. And these seems like such fundamental skills, and yet they're still lacking. And yet I've learned in business that you can give yourself a real competitive edge by being your authentic self and telling the truth and delivering on what you promised and showing up on, and all these skills that we should have, but they kind of went by the wayside.
Okay, thank you so much. John?
What an incredible discussion this has been, and thank you, Angela. There have been some fantastic questions, and I think we've really managed to have a very, very sensible and in-depth discussion across the board on everything we've discussed. So I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity, and to you guys, Dennis, Tara, and Daniel. The only thing I'm a bit disappointed about, if I'm honest, is I haven't had the opportunity to demonstrate my apparent absence of ego, because you haven't presented me with anything that I haven't agreed with. And I wasn't able to, you know, anyway, I joke. It's been it's been an amazing session. So thank you to everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you,
That's
everyone.
Jonathan's ego talking there. That's your ego talking there.
I did it.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. I really enjoyed this session immensely, and I'm looking forward to another forum next month. How about the last Friday of next month, which is October? Last Friday of October next month, same time.
Thumbs
Daniel,
up.
thumbs up. Dennis. All right,
Maybe.
let's invite.
I have to say maybe. I don't know. I have to say
Mhm.
maybe for now, but I'll take a look at it and come back to you.
Okay, Dennis is very busy. Okay, he's actually my example too. I always mention his name every time we've got meetings, because of all this, you know, networking on other social media network. Like, you know, they just force people to like their posts, and I tell them, like, use your intuition in connecting with people, not because they've got millions of followers. They are gems in, you know, in terms of your personal and professional growth. So I told them, like, Dennis, he doesn't even gain 100 likes for any of his posts, but I know that this guy has got a lot to offer to every one of us, offline, not online. So anyways, yeah, that's what I always tell them. So be wise in connecting with people, especially social media. Use your intuition. Always use your intuition. So this is going to be a monthly forum. Thank you for your commitment, Daniel and Taro. We will invite more. If you'd like to invite some more people to join us, please do so. Let's make sure we deal with like-minded people first, like-minded people. All right. So thank you once again, and blessings to all of you. See
Thank you.
next month. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.